Hilltop Consultants. Real IT people, real IT solutions, real IT partners. Hello and welcome to the Hilltop Consultants webinar series. Today's episode focuses on 5 hacks that will help make you more efficient. I'm your host, Clayton Romero. A recent study showed that attorneys spend more than 30% of their time on administrative tasks, and less than 10% of their time on billable tasks. Add to that the fact that attorneys also spend between 60 and 70 hours a week at work. Wouldn't you want to make the most of your time? Well, I think we've got some tools that'll help you do just that. Using these 5 powerful tools, you can start to take your life back and make your work so much more efficient. First, we're going to focus on processes. Then we're going to get into Office 365 and making sure that you're getting out all that you can. Then we're going to look at work chats. Then sharpening your most important tools. And finally, thinking with your mouth. Process mapping is one of those things that can seem really dry. And in truth, it can be. But it's one of the building blocks to making sure that you've got a really efficient way to go through and get things done. Now, the way you're going to go about doing that is first writing it down. Once you've written that whole process down on how you get a given task done, then you can map it out. Mapping out it is really important because you'll see all the different things that connect to that process. You'll see what programs it touches. You'll see what individuals you have to interface with. And then finally, you'll see where there's duplication. Where can you carve things off, consolidate things, make it as efficient as possible? Once you've got all those things figured out, you can look at task delegation and automation. There's a really good chance in some of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, your particular set of skills, your high-value set of skills, isn't necessary to do that task. Someone who either doesn't bill as highly or isn't as skilled as you are could probably do some of those. That way you can spend more of your time focused on higher value tasks, billable tasks. Automation's the other place that you're going to leverage this. How many places can you take and implement some kind of robotic process, either through a company like Nintex or using something like Microsoft Flow, which we'll talk about in a second? These are ways that you can eliminate that repetitive work that just isn't worth it for you to do and waste your high-value time on. Then finally, once you get to the end of that whole process, you start at the beginning again. You look at where else you can optimize. You look at where else you can improve. If that process can't be improved, you move on to the next process and you do the same thing there. And eventually, you'll be at a place where everything is humming like a top. As I just mentioned, Microsoft Flow is one of those tools that can help automate tasks and making you that much more efficient. In addition, Microsoft Forms is also available in almost every Office 365 subscription. In fact, every one of these comes with Business, Pro Plus, and E3. So odds are your company already has these, whether or not you know about them. Let's take a quick look at Microsoft Flow. Over the last couple of years, Microsoft has been building and developing relationships with all of these different apps, right? So Act, Twitter, SQL, Box, Net Documents, Word, Teams, MailChimp. All of these things are tools that you can connect in and automate tasks on. Maybe you have to go through and set up a meeting reminder every time you do a GoToMeeting, or a follow-up after the meeting is done. This can help you automate that. Maybe you want to do a semantic analysis of Twitter feeds, so you can see what's going on with a particular case, or be alerted when some specific set of keywords shows up in Twitter. Or you've got a volatile client and they're on Twitter all the time and you want to know when they say something that you're going to get a call about a couple of seconds later. This is something that can help you substantially. Go out there onto your Office 365, log in, click on Microsoft Flow. Look at all of the templates they already have out there. It'll help you keep time. It'll help you make appointments. It'll send reminders. This is a very, very powerful tool. And because it doesn't require any code, you can make easy use of it for anything in your life. You just have to go through and do a little bit of time investment. So what about Microsoft Forms? Microsoft Forms is one of those things that's going to help you go through and collect data on a sort of an automated basis. Before I recorded this, I went through and made just a quick test form on my own. It took me about 5 minutes, and I designed it around client intake. So we go ahead and click on that. And as you can see, I've got my test form, first name, last name, phone number, email address, and then the legal need. Well, what if I also want to add in a rating? All right, 1 to 5 stars. What's the question? About how would you rate your last legal experience? There we go. Yeah, that looks about right. It's required, and let's click off, and it's done. Good, let's preview that. This is exactly what my client's going to see. All the way, and there it is. Now let's look at the mobile form. Nice and clean. The cool thing is, from this point, I can share it out immediately. I could take the QR code that's generated directly out of the tool and put it on a business card. Or I can send it in an email, or put it into a web format. I can give it to my law firm's web developer and have them put it directly onto our site. And if you take Forms and you put it together with Flow, it allows you to automate all kinds of things. I can collect data and then automatically ingest it into my systems. Things that would normally take me a lot of time or that would be very process intensive, I can now completely automate. In fact, before I did this, I went through and took that initial form and added in a flow that says, anytime someone submits a form, send my chat program Teams a message and go ahead and put it into this channel where we have 6 different people, all of whom are looking for a new case. When someone submits that, it's going to pop in a little message that says, hey, John Smith has legal trouble and it's criminal. And any one of us can then go into this form, review the details, and either approve or reject it. In the event that we reject it, John Smith gets an email back, says, hey, we're not accepting clients at this time, but thank you very much for your interest. We recommend reaching out to the Atlanta Bar Association for attorney referrals. If we say accept or approve, then we accept that. The client then gets an email that says, we've heard your need and we'll be in touch with you shortly. So this is a way that I can very quickly and easily collect new clients, collect new client data information, and start that whole intake process very quickly without ever having to stop what I'm doing. So as I just mentioned, instant messaging is back, right? Huge in the 90s, then text messaging came along and killed it. Well, it's back with a vengeance. And now with companies like Microsoft offering Teams and solutions like Slack and ND Thread on the market, it's got a huge resurgence, especially when we have this increasingly remote workforce. We're losing that human element. We're losing those relationships that we build with our coworkers. And in addition to that, with tools like this, I now don't have to get up and walk all the way down to his office and ask them the question. I can just send him a chat. How many times have you gotten up, walked over, and forgotten what you were going to ask someone? Well, now you've wasted the time you've walked down there, the time you got to walk back, and then the time you got to go walk back down there again once you remembered what you were going to ask. In this case, you just send him a quick text. You send it straight through the chat program. It has a record of the whole thing. They're super convenient, and it gives me that instantaneous feedback that I need. If someone's sick, they can send that information out there without having to come in and infect the whole office. And really, very, very powerfully, with solutions like ND Thread, you're then going to get task delegation along with it. You're then going to have anything that I put into that chat associated with a specific case. So all the documents that I share in there, they go directly into that client matter. They go directly into that workspace, and I don't have to worry about the data governance. I don't have to check 6 different systems to find out where that document went to. When I have a brand new attorney comes onto that case, they can go directly in here, see the whole record, and be up to speed very, very quickly on that case. If I get sick, or if I go on maternity or paternity leave, and I have to then hand this case off, the attorney coming in to accept this has all the details right at their fingertips. So very, very powerful. That pretty much covers a lot of our deep technology things. So let's focus on the one tool that we tend to abuse the most, and that's ourselves. A recent study shows that people who have regular exercise, about 30 minutes, light to moderate, we don't want to look at the really heavy exercise because that actually has some negative impacts on work productivity, but the really common 30 minutes, light to moderate, they show a boost of 21% productivity across the board. And that's just on productivity. That doesn't talk about the reduction in sick days or the improvement in your mood elevation, right? Because all of that workout starts reducing our stress hormones, starts boosting our endorphins, starts making us feel better, feel happier, feel healthier, and so we think more clearly. Finally, you need to start talking to yourself. Seriously. Dictation is sort of a lost art form, but in this day and age where we have so much AI-driven voice recognition and dictation systems, it makes so much more sense to have a resurgence. With companies like Big Hand and Nuance with Dragon Natural Speaking, and even Siri that is on everyone's phone. These things make dictation so simple, we have to start utilizing this. Some of the benefits, just in real brief. The average typist, and this is sort of gusty, right, because we're going to be slower and we're going to be faster at different points, but the average typing speed of a proficient typist is between 50 and 60 words per minute, compared to the average lecturing speed of 140 to 160 words per minute, more than 3 times in some cases. What you would be able to type out, you can put that same work product by just speaking. In addition to the higher work output, dictation also frees you up from these mini ruts that we can get stuck in. There's a concept in psychology called priming, and when we're constantly drafting things inside our offices or we're stuck to a desk, we can have something happen called counterproductive priming. Basically what that means is that we've learned all of these things at our desk, and so we are likely to come back to those same sets of things without any new ideas coming to us if we sit in the same environment. Right? This is the same concept as if I learn something in a classroom and then I take a test in that same classroom, I am more likely to do well on that test than I am if I take that test somewhere else, because that's where I learned it. When you're able to get up from your desk and walk around, it gives your brain new stimuli, and it gets you out of that already primed location. In addition, you can go all the way out and do double duty, where now I'm going on a 30-minute walk while I'm still dictating my brief. Dictation has other benefits as well from a psychological standpoint. When you dictate a document, you have to order the entire document in your head, then dictate it out, and you can't really rearrange those things. Those of us who type have a bit of a crutch. We can write a thing out and then rearrange the document after the fact. But those who dictate are more like proficient chess players. They think 5, 6, even 7 moves ahead. And so when their opponents make a move, they can adapt very quickly. So this translates into a substantially more enhanced courtroom presence. There's a statistically significant difference between dictators and non-dictators when you look at their closure rates or their win rates in court cases. And that makes sense, doesn't it? You've got this thing called the 10,000 hour rule, where it requires roughly 10,000 hours before you can be considered an expert at a given task. Typing versus oration are two very different skill sets, and so both would require very different types of practice. The person who dictates is going to be very used to getting their thoughts out in a timely and controlled fashion, whereas the person who types has similar but not all that applicable skills. In addition, that means that you get out only what you put in. Dictation isn't a natural process, so it's something you have to work at. But I promise if you put in the time and energy to develop that skill set, it will pay dividends. In fact, a study that Big Hand commissioned looking at the cost-benefit analysis of dictation, considering attorneys at a $425 an hour billing rate over the course of a year between efficiency of the dictation and improved billing hours, they had over 34,000 additional billing hours each attorney every year. That's a decent number. And now for a quick review. First, we talked about process mapping. It's important for you to write it down, draw it out, and see where you can trim the fat. Once you've done that, you can look at Office 365. Make sure you're getting all that you possibly can out of the tools that you're already paying for. If those don't do it for you, then look at something that's a more enterprise product like Nintex. That way you can put those kind of benefits across your entire organization. After that, we talked about Office chat programs and how they can help you make yourself more efficient by not having to go down the hallway to talk to somebody, interrupting their workflow, and how they can act as a point of record so that you don't have to ask them again if you forget in the future. Then we covered some of the benefits of light exercise and how people who get out and do 30 minutes of light or moderate exercise are happier, they're healthier, and they have an easier time focusing on tasks for longer, bringing on average, a 21% improvement in performance. Then finally, we discussed reviving the lost art of dictation and how you can generate almost 3 times the amount of work product just by dictating alone. And that concludes this episode of the Hilltop Consultants webinar. I hope you've learned some things and that you can start applying them to help take back your life. Hilltop Consultants. Real IT people, real IT solutions, real IT partners. My name's Clayton Romero, and you can reach me at cromero@hilltopconsultants.com.